20 black legends who died broke, despite huge fame. What if some of the greatest black music legends in history earned millions, changed culture forever, and still faced heartbreaking financial struggles before their final days? Behind the gold records, sold-out concerts, and worldwide fame were stories of exploitation, bad contracts, personal battles, and dreams that never fully paid off. From soul icons and jazz pioneers to revolutionary performers who inspired generations, these legends left behind priceless legacies, but not always the wealth people imagined. Which story will shock you the most, and who do you believe deserved a better ending? Stay with us until the very end. Before we begin, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Welcome to Remembered Lives channel. Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker's life is one of the most heartbreaking examples of how genius does not always lead to financial security. Born in 1920, Parker became a revolutionary force in jazz and is widely credited with helping create bebop, a style that forever changed modern music. Nicknamed Bird, he amazed audiences with his speed, creativity, and technical brilliance on the saxophone. Musicians across generations continue to study his recordings, and many consider him one of the greatest jazz artists who ever lived. Yet behind the applause and admiration was a man struggling with addiction, poor health, and financial instability. During an era when many black musicians received unfair contracts and limited royalties, Parker often earned far less than the value he brought to the music industry. Substance abuse further complicated his life, consuming both his health and his finances. Despite influencing countless artists and helping shape the future of jazz, Parker frequently found himself in difficult financial circumstances. His declining health eventually caught up with him, and on March 12, 1955, he died at just 34 years old. Reports from the time suggested that his financial situation was far from comfortable despite his immense influence on American music. Today, Charlie Parker's recordings remain essential listening for jazz lovers around the world. While his bank account never reflected the true value of his talent, his artistic legacy became priceless. More than 70 years after his death, Bird continues to inspire musicians and remind us that extraordinary genius can leave an impact far greater than wealth ever could. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's story is one of breathtaking success followed by painful struggles that many fans never fully understood. Born in 1963, Houston rose from a talented young singer to become one of the most successful recording artists in history. Her powerful voice, remarkable range, and emotional delivery produced timeless classics such as I Will Always Love You, Greatest Love of All, and How Will I Know. Over the course of her career, she sold more than 200 million records worldwide, won numerous awards, and became a global icon. The soundtrack for The Bodyguard remains one of the best-selling albums ever released, cementing her place among music's elite. Yet behind the fame and fortune, Houston faced personal battles that gradually affected both her career and finances. Years of substance abuse, expensive legal matters, declining album sales, and the cost of maintaining a lavish lifestyle created significant financial pressure. Although she earned hundreds of millions during her career, reports indicated that she experienced serious money problems during her later years. Friends described a woman trying to rebuild her life while carrying the burden of past mistakes and personal challenges. Despite efforts to stage a comeback, the road was difficult. When Whitney Houston died on February 11, 2012 at age 48, reports suggested she faced substantial financial obligations despite retaining tremendous earning potential through her music catalog. However, her legacy cannot be measured by bank accounts or debts. Whitney Houston changed music forever, inspired generations of singers, and broke barriers for black women in entertainment. Her voice remains one of the most recognizable in history, and her influence continues to resonate around the world. Though her final years were marked by hardship, her extraordinary talent ensured that her place in music history would remain secure forever. David Ruffin. David Ruffin's voice helped define an era of soul music, yet behind the fame and chart-topping success was a man whose personal and financial struggles often overshadowed his achievements. Born in Mississippi in 1941, Ruffin rose from humble beginnings to become the legendary lead singer of The Temptations, one of the most successful groups in Motown history. His powerful vocals drove classics such as My Girl Ain't Too Proud to Beg and I Wish It Would Rain, helping the group sell millions of records and become international stars. As Ruffin's popularity grew, so did his desire for individual recognition. Tensions within the group eventually led to his departure in 1968. Although he enjoyed moderate success as a solo artist, he never again reached the commercial heights he experienced with the Temptations. Over the following years, personal problems began affecting both his career and finances. Substance abuse issues canceled performances, legal troubles, and inconsistent management created financial instability, despite decades of success in the music business. During the 1980s, Ruffin attempted several comebacks and reunited with former Temptations members for successful tours. However, financial difficulties continued to follow him. Despite helping create some of the most beloved songs in American music history, he struggled to maintain long-term financial security. On June 1, 1991, David Ruffin died at the age of 50. His passing shocked fans around the world and marked the loss of one of soul music's greatest voices. Though his financial circumstances were far from ideal at the end of his life, his musical legacy remains priceless. Today, David Ruffin is remembered not for his struggles, but for a voice that helped shape the sound of Motown and inspired generations of singers. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix achieved more in 4 years than many musicians accomplish in an entire lifetime. Born in Seattle in 1942, Hendrix transformed the electric guitar forever through creativity, technical brilliance, and fearless experimentation. Songs such as Purple Haze, Hey Joe, Voodoo Child, and All Along the Watchtower established him as one of the most influential musicians in history. Even decades later, many critics still consider him the greatest guitarist of all time. By the late 1960s, Hendrix had become an international superstar. His performances at Monterey Pop Festival, Woodstock, and the Isle of Wight Festival turned him into a cultural icon. Millions admired his groundbreaking style, yet behind the scenes his financial affairs were far more complicated than most fans realized. Hendrix was often surrounded by managers, agents, promoters, and business partners competing for control of his rapidly growing career. Contract disputes and financial disagreements became increasingly common. Although he earned substantial income from records and concerts, Hendrix lacked full control over many aspects of his business operation. His hectic lifestyle and constant touring left little time to manage financial matters personally. As a result, the wealth generated by his success did not always translate into long-term financial security. Tragically, Hendrix died on September 18, 1970 at only 27 years old, following an accidental overdose. Because his life ended so suddenly, many business and financial matters remained unresolved. While his estate would later become extremely valuable, Hendrix himself never fully enjoyed the wealth his talent created. His story serves as a reminder that extraordinary success does not always guarantee financial stability. Yet despite his short life, Jimi Hendrix changed music forever and left behind a legacy that continues to inspire artists around the world. Dorothy Dandridge. Dorothy Dandridge's life was a story of groundbreaking achievement mixed with heartbreaking adversity. Born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1922, she became one of Hollywood's first black female superstars at a time when racial barriers severely limited opportunities. Beautiful, talented, and charismatic, Dandridge captivated audiences with performances that challenged industry stereotypes and opened doors for future generations. Her career reached its peak with the 1954 film Carmen Jones, which earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. She became the first black woman in history to receive that honor in a leading role. The achievement transformed her into an international celebrity and symbol of progress within the entertainment industry. Yet the success came with enormous pressure. Despite earning fame, Dandridge faced discrimination, limited career opportunities, and financial mismanagement. Hollywood offered very few leading roles to black actresses, making it difficult for her to maintain consistent income. Several poor business decisions and personal challenges further weakened her financial position. A troubled marriage, expensive legal disputes, and declining career opportunities gradually eroded her savings. As the 1960s progressed, work became increasingly scarce. Financial problems mounted and Dandridge struggled to regain the momentum she once enjoyed. On September 8, 1965, she died at the age of 42 from an accidental drug overdose. At the time of her death, reports indicated she was experiencing significant financial hardship despite her historic achievements. Today, Dorothy Dandridge is remembered as a pioneer who broke racial barriers in Hollywood. Though her final years were marked by personal and financial difficulties, her courage and accomplishments paved the way for countless actresses who followed. Her legacy remains one of resilience, talent, and historic significance. Tupac Shakur. Few artists have left a cultural impact as powerful as Tupac Shakur. Born in New York City in 1971, Tupac emerged during the early 1990s as one of hip-hop's most influential voices. His music combined raw emotion, social commentary, and personal vulnerability, creating songs that resonated far beyond the world of rap. Tracks such as Dear Mama Changes, Keep Ya Head Up, and California Love transformed him into a global icon. Tupac's rise was rapid and extraordinary. He sold millions of records, appeared in successful films, and became one of the most recognizable figures in popular culture. Yet his life outside the recording studio was filled with controversy. Legal battles, court cases, security concerns, and ongoing conflicts within the rap industry created enormous financial pressure. Although he generated substantial income through music and acting, many of those earnings were consumed by legal expenses and personal obligation. Following a prison sentence in 1995, Tupac signed with Death Row Records, one of the most powerful labels in hip-hop. While the deal revitalized his career, questions about ownership, royalties, and financial arrangements remained complex. Despite his fame, he was still navigating significant financial challenges when his life was cut short. On September 13, 1996, Tupac died at just 25 years old after being shot in Las Vegas. Reports following his death suggested that his finances were far more complicated than many fans expected, with debts and contractual obligations offsetting much of his apparent wealth. Nevertheless, his influence only grew after his passing. More than 25 years later, Tupac remains one of the best-selling and most celebrated rappers in history. His story is both inspiring and tragic, a reminder that fame and fortune do not always protect someone from life's harsh realities. Joe Tex. Joe Tex was one of the most colorful and influential figures in soul music. A performer whose charisma, humor, and unique storytelling style helped him stand out in a crowded industry. Born Joseph Arrington Jr. in Texas in 1935, he spent years struggling for recognition before finally breaking through in the 1960s. Once success arrived, he became known for hit songs such as Old What You've Got, Skinny Legs, and All and I Gotcha, records that showcased his ability to blend soul, rhythm and blues and spoken word performance into something uniquely his own. Unlike many singers of his era, Joe Tex built a reputation as an entertainer who could captivate audiences with both his voice and personality. His recordings sold millions of copies, and for a time, he was among the most successful soul artists in America. However, financial success did not always translate into long-term stability. Throughout his career, Tex faced challenges involving business decisions, changing musical trends, and periods when his popularity declined. As newer styles emerged during the late 1970s, the commercial success he once enjoyed became harder to maintain. Tex also became known for his public feud with James Brown, a rivalry that generated headlines and added drama to the soul music scene. While it increased his visibility, it also reflected the competitive environment in which artists often struggled to maintain relevance and income. Despite years of success, financial pressures followed him during different stages of his career. On August 13, 1982, Joe Tex died suddenly of a heart attack at the age of 49. Although he had enjoyed tremendous success and sold millions of records, his financial situation was far less secure than many fans assumed. Today, Joe Tex is remembered as one of soul music's great entertainers, a performer whose influence can still be heard in artists who combine humor, storytelling, and social observation in their music. His life remains a reminder that fame can be fleeting, but true artistic impact can last forever. Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor transformed American comedy in ways that few entertainers ever have. Born in Peoria, Illinois in 1940, Pryor took the pain, struggles, and chaos of his own life and turned them into groundbreaking comedy that forever changed an up performance. His fearless honesty about race, addiction, relationships, and personal mistakes made him one of the most influential comedians in history. Growing up in difficult circumstances, Pryor learned early how to use humor as both a defense mechanism and a tool for survival. By the 1970s, he had become one of the biggest names in entertainment. His comedy albums sold in huge numbers, his live performances filled arenas, and his appearances in films, such as Silver Streak Stir Crazy and The Toy, made him a box office attraction. At the height of his career, he was among the highest-paid entertainers in America. Yet behind the laughter was a man battling enormous personal challenges. Drug addiction, multiple marriages, legal problems, and extravagant spending habits placed tremendous pressure on his finances. Pryor earned millions throughout his career, but large portions of his wealth disappeared through medical expenses, divorce settlements, failed business decisions, and the consequences of addiction. One of the most shocking moments of his life occurred in 1980 when he suffered severe burns during a drug-related accident. The incident led to expensive medical treatments and became another chapter in a life already filled with turmoil. Later, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a disease that gradually limited his physical abilities and increased healthcare costs. When Pryor died on December 10, 2005, at age 65, many reports suggested that his estate was far smaller than people expected from a performer of his stature. Nevertheless, his legacy remains enormous. Richard Pryor changed comedy forever, influencing generations of performers, including Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, and Kevin Hart. His financial struggles may have marked parts of his life, but his artistic impact remains beyond measure. Fela Kuti. Fela Kuti was far more than a musician. He was a revolutionary, a political activist, and the creator of Afrobeat, a genre that blended jazz, funk, traditional African rhythms, and powerful social commentary. Born in Nigeria in 1938, Fela became one of the most influential artists in African history, using music not only to entertain but also to challenge corruption, military rule, and injustice. His fearless attitude made him a hero to millions, but it also came at a tremendous personal and financial cost. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Fela released landmark albums such as Zombie Expensive, Shit, and Water No Get Enemy. His concerts attracted huge crowds and his influence spread far beyond Africa. Yet unlike many global stars, Fela rarely focused on building personal wealth. Much of his income went towards supporting his band, political activities, legal battles, and the communal lifestyle he maintained at his famous Kalakuta Republic compound. His outspoken criticism of the Nigerian government led to repeated arrests, raids, and confiscations of property. In 1977, following the release of Zombie, government forces attacked his compound, causing extensive destruction and financial losses. Over the years, legal expenses and political persecution repeatedly drained resources that might otherwise have secured his financial future. Despite international fame, Fela's financial situation was often unstable. He prioritized activism over wealth accumulation and frequently found himself battling authorities instead of expanding his business interests. By the time he died on August 2, 1997, at age 58, he had left behind an enormous cultural legacy, but not the kind of fortune many would expect from an artist of his stature. Today, Fela Kuti remains one of the most influential figures in world music. His songs continue to inspire movements for social justice, and Afrobeat has become a global phenomenon embraced by new generation. Although he never amassed lasting wealth, his impact on music, politics, and African culture remains immeasurable, proving that some legacies are worth far more than money. Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday's voice carried a depth of emotion that few singers have ever matched. Born Eleonora Fagan in Philadelphia in 1915, she transformed herself into one of the most important jazz vocalists in history. Her unique phrasing, emotional delivery, and ability to turn pain into art made songs like Strange Fruit, God Bless the Child, and Loverman timeless masterpieces. Yet behind the applause and admiration was a life filled with hardship, addiction, and financial instability. Holiday's rise to fame during the 1930s and 1940s was extraordinary. She performed with leading jazz musicians, sold records, and became one of the most recognizable voices in American music. However, the era in which she worked offered limited protection for Black artists, especially women. Unfair contracts, racial discrimination, and poor financial management often prevented her from fully benefiting from her success. As her career progressed, personal struggles began taking a heavy toll. Drug and alcohol addiction led to repeated legal problems, health complications, and lost professional opportunities. Medical expenses, court costs, and declining work opportunities steadily weakened her finances. Even when audiences continued to admire her talent, her personal life became increasingly difficult. By the late 1950s, Holiday's health had deteriorated significantly. Hospitalizations became frequent and financial pressures mounted. When she died on July 17, 1959, at the age of 44, reports indicated she had very little money remaining despite being one of the most celebrated singers of her generation. The contrast between her artistic greatness and financial condition shocked many observers. Today, Billie Holiday is remembered not for her debts or struggles, but for her extraordinary contribution to music. Her recordings continue to influence singers across multiple genres, and her courage in performing socially conscious songs, such as Strange Fruit, helped change American culture. Though her final years were difficult, her voice remains immortal, ensuring that her legacy continues to resonate with audiences around the world. Jackie Wilson. Jackie Wilson was one of the most electrifying performers ever to step onto a stage. Born in Detroit in 1934, Wilson possessed a remarkable voice, incredible athleticism, and unmatched charisma. Long before artists like Michael Jackson and Prince became famous for their energetic performances, Jackie Wilson was already setting the standard. Hits such as Lonely Teardrops, Baby Workout, and Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher and Higher helped establish him as one of the biggest stars of the rock and soul era. During the late 1950s and 1960s, Wilson enjoyed tremendous commercial success. His records sold millions of copies, and his dynamic stage shows attracted fans around the world. Yet despite generating significant revenue for record companies and promoters, Wilson personally received far less financial benefit than many people assumed. Like numerous black artists of his generation, he worked under contracts that heavily favored industry executives. Poor business arrangements, management problems, and financial exploitation gradually eroded the wealth created by his success. While audiences saw a glamorous star, Wilson often struggled behind the scenes to maintain financial stability. Personal expenses and career setbacks further complicated matters. A devastating turning point came in 1975 when Wilson suffered a massive heart attack and collapsed on stage while performing. The medical emergency left him in a coma-like condition for years. The enormous costs associated with his care placed additional strain on his finances and family. For nearly a decade, he remained incapacitated while medical bills continued to accumulate. Jackie Wilson died on January 21, 1984, at the age of 49. Despite being one of the most influential singers in popular music history, he reportedly left behind far less wealth than fans expected. His story became one of the most cited examples of how black entertainers were often denied the financial rewards they deserved. Today, Wilson's influence can be heard in countless artists who followed. His voice, stage presence, and pioneering performances helped shape modern soul and pop music. Though financial security eluded him, his contribution to music remains priceless and enduring. Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson was one of the most accomplished and respected black figures of the 20th century. Born in Princeton, New Jersey in 1898, he excelled in nearly every field he entered. He was a scholar, athlete, lawyer, actor, singer, and civil rights advocate, whose influence extended far beyond entertainment. Long before the modern civil rights movement gained momentum, Robeson used his voice and international reputation to challenge racism and promote equality. His achievements were extraordinary. Robeson earned a scholarship to Rutgers University, where he became one of the school's most celebrated athletes. After graduating, he studied law but eventually turned toward the stage and concert halls. His powerful bass baritone voice made him famous around the world, particularly through performances of songs such as Old Man River. As an actor, he gained acclaim in productions, including The Emperor Jones and Othello, becoming one of the first black performers to achieve international stardom. Yet Robeson's outspoken political beliefs came at a steep price. During the 1940s and 1950s, his support for labor rights, anti-colonial movements, and social justice brought intense scrutiny from the U.S. government. His passport was revoked for several years, preventing him from performing internationally and severely reducing his income. Opportunities that once generated substantial earnings disappeared almost overnight. As the years passed, legal battles, political persecution, and declining health took a significant toll. Although he remained admired globally, his earning power never fully recovered. By the time he died on January 23, 1976, at the age of 77, much of the wealth he could have accumulated had been lost due to circumstances beyond his control. Today, Paul Robeson is remembered not only for his remarkable talents, but also for his courage. His story illustrates how a person can achieve greatness while sacrificing personal financial security in pursuit of principles. Though he faced economic hardship later in life, his impact on civil rights culture and history remains immeasurable. James Brown. James Brown's journey from extreme poverty to international superstardom is one of the most remarkable stories in music history. Born in South Carolina in 1933 and raised in difficult circumstances in Georgia, Brown overcame countless obstacles to become the godfather of soul. Through relentless determination, electrifying performances, and groundbreaking music, he helped shape modern R&B, soul, funk, and even hip-hop. During a career that lasted more than 5 decades, Brown produced classic hits including Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, I Got You, I Feel Good, The Payback, and Get Up Off of That Thing. His influence stretched across generations, inspiring artists ranging from Michael Jackson and Prince to countless rappers and producers. By the 1970s, he had become one of the most successful entertainers in America, earning millions through records, concerts, and business ventures. However, Brown's financial story was far more complicated than many people realize. He spent heavily on maintaining a large entourage, supporting family members, and funding various business interests. Legal troubles, tax disputes, and management issues periodically created financial pressure. Despite earning enormous sums during his lifetime, his finances often fluctuated dramatically. Unlike many figures on lists of celebrities who died broke, Brown did not actually die impoverished. When he passed away on December 25, 2006 at age 73, he still possessed valuable assets and a sizable estate. However, years of legal battles and disputes over his fortune created the perception that his financial affairs were in disarray. His story is often included in discussions about wealth mismanagement, but it is important to distinguish that from genuine poverty. Regardless of financial controversies, James Brown's cultural impact remains undeniable. He transformed popular music, redefined live performance, and created a legacy that continues to influence artists around the world. His life demonstrates both the rewards and complexities that often accompany extraordinary success. Little Walter. Little Walter may not be as widely recognized by modern audiences as some music legends, but his influence on blues and rock music is impossible to overstate. Born Marion Walter Jacobs in Louisiana in 1930, he revolutionized the harmonica and helped shape the sound of modern blues. His innovative playing style inspired generations of musicians and earned him a place among the greatest blues artists of all time. Walter's rise began after he moved to Chicago, where he immersed himself in the city's thriving blues scene. There he joined forces with blues giants, such as Muddy Waters, and quickly established himself as an extraordinary harmonica player. Unlike earlier performers, Walter amplified his harmonica through microphones and amplifiers, creating a powerful, expressive sound that changed the instrument forever. During the 1950s, he enjoyed significant success with recordings such as Juke My Babe and Blues with a Feeling. His records sold well, and he became one of the few blues artists of the era to achieve crossover popularity. Yet, like many black musicians of his generation, Walter worked within an industry that often failed to fairly compensate artists for their contributions. Despite his talent and commercial success, financial security remained elusive. The combination of limited royalties, unstable touring income, and personal struggles prevented him from building lasting wealth. His life was also marked by frequent conflicts, legal troubles, and alcohol-related problems that affected both his career and finances. In 1968, Walter was involved in a physical altercation that resulted in injuries. Although he initially appeared to recover, complications followed. On February 15, 1968, he died at the age of 37. At the time of his death, he had little financial security, despite helping transform the blues forever. Today, Little Walter's influence can be heard in countless blues, rock, and harmonica players worldwide. Though he never accumulated great wealth, his artistic contributions remain priceless, ensuring that his legacy continues to endure more than half a century after his passing. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke's story is one of extraordinary success, groundbreaking achievement, and a tragic ending that left countless questions behind. Born in Mississippi in 1931 and raised in Chicago, Cooke began his career singing gospel music before becoming one of the most influential voices in popular music history. Blessed with a smooth, unmistakable voice and remarkable songwriting talent, he helped bridge the gap between gospel rhythm and blues and mainstream pop, paving the way for generations of artists who followed. By the late 1950s and early 1960s, Cooke had become a superstar. Hits such as You Send Me, Cupid Wonderful World and Chain Gang Gang turned him into one of the best-selling artists of his era. Unlike many performers of the time, Cooke also understood the business side of music. He founded his own publishing company and record label, becoming one of the first black artists to seek control over his recordings and royalties. Yet despite his financial intelligence, Cooke's wealth was often tied up in business ventures, investments, and ongoing projects. His sudden death on December 11, 1964, at only 33 years old, cut short what many believed would become an even greater financial empire. The circumstances surrounding his death remain controversial and widely debated decades later. Because his life ended so abruptly, many of his assets and business interests were left in complicated legal situation. While Cooke was not truly impoverished when he died, the financial future he had been building was never fully realized. His story is often included in discussions about black entertainers whose wealth and business potential were interrupted by tragedy. More than 60 years after his death, Sam Cooke remains one of the most important figures in American music. His civil rights anthem, "A Change Is Gonna Come," continues to inspire listeners worldwide. Though his life was tragically short, his influence on music culture and black entrepreneurship remains as powerful today as it was during his lifetime. Florence Ballard. Florence Ballard's story is one of the most tragic in music history. Born in Detroit, Michigan in 1943, she was one of the founding members of the Supremes, the legendary Motown group that became one of the most successful female acts of all time. Alongside Diana Ross and Mary Wilson, Ballard helped create a sound that transformed popular music and opened doors for black women in the entertainment industry. During the 1960s, the Supremes dominated the charts with songs such as "Where Did Our Love Go Baby Love" and "Stop, in the Name of Love." The group achieved 12 number-one hits in the United States, becoming Motown's most successful act and one of the most influential groups in music history. Yet behind the glamour, tensions were growing. As Diana Ross increasingly became the focus of the group's promotion, Ballard found herself pushed into the background. Personal struggles, emotional stress, and conflicts within the organization eventually led to her departure from the group in 1967. Losing her position in one of the world's biggest musical acts dramatically altered the course of her life. Following her exit, Ballard attempted a solo career but struggled to achieve commercial success. Financial difficulties soon followed. Without the income and support system she once enjoyed, she faced mounting debts and increasing personal hardship. By the 1970s, she was living far from the glamorous lifestyle many assumed former stars enjoyed. On February 22, 1976, Florence Ballard died of a heart attack at just 32 years old. At the time of her death, she was reportedly facing serious financial difficulties and living in modest circumstances. Her passing shocked fans and highlighted the harsh realities that can exist behind fame. Today, Florence Ballard is remembered not only as a founding member of the Supremes, but also as a symbol of both extraordinary talent and heartbreaking loss. Her story remains one of the most powerful reminders that success does not always guarantee security or happiness. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye possessed one of the most beautiful and emotionally expressive voices ever recorded. Born in Washington, D.C. in 1939, he became one of Motown's greatest stars and helped redefine soul music through artistry, vulnerability, and innovation. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Gaye produced timeless classics including "I Heard It Through the Grapevine," "Let's Get It On," "What's Going On," and "Sexual Healing." His music sold millions of records and earned him international acclaim. At the height of his success, Marvin Gaye enjoyed tremendous wealth and fame. However, behind the scenes, his personal life became increasingly complicated. Expensive divorces, tax problems, legal disputes, and financial mismanagement placed enormous pressure on his finances. One of the most costly events was his divorce from Anna Gordy, which resulted in a settlement so significant that part of the album Here My Dear was reportedly created to help satisfy financial obligations. As financial problems mounted, Gaye struggled with depression, substance abuse, and periods of self-doubt. By the late 1970s, he reportedly owed millions of dollars in back taxes and found himself relocating overseas in an effort to rebuild both his career and financial situation. While his comeback album Midnight Love and the hit single Sexual Healing restored much of his professional success, many financial challenges remained unresolved. Tragically, on April 1, 1984, just one day before his 45th birthday, Marvin Gaye was shot and killed by his father during a domestic dispute. At the time of his death, his finances were still recovering from years of difficulties. Although his music catalog would later generate enormous value, his personal financial condition during his final years was far from stable. Today, Marvin Gaye is remembered as one of the greatest singers and songwriters of all time. His music continues to influence artists across every genre, proving that while financial struggles may have marked parts of his life, his artistic legacy remains untouchable. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman's voice carried elegant sophistication and emotional depth that captivated audiences throughout the 1970s and 1980s. Born in Philadelphia in 1949 and raised in Pittsburgh, she developed into one of the most respected vocalists in soul, jazz, and R&B music. Standing nearly 6 feet tall with a commanding stage presence, Hyman possessed a rich contralto voice that distinguished her from nearly every singer of her generation. Her career flourished with songs such as You Know How to Love Me, Living All Alone, Old Friend, and Don't Wanna Change the World. Critics praised her vocal ability, while fans connected deeply with the emotional honesty in her performances. Despite her talent and success, however, Hyman often struggled to achieve the commercial recognition enjoyed by some of her contemporaries. Behind the spotlight, she faced significant personal challenges. Hyman battled depression for many years, a struggle that remained largely hidden from the public. At the same time, the music industry was changing rapidly, making it difficult for many established artists to maintain consistent income. Although she continued recording and performing, financial pressures and professional frustrations increasingly weighed on her. Unlike some artists who accumulated vast fortunes, Hyman's earnings were often limited by industry realities, management issues, and periods of declining commercial success. While she maintained a respected career, she never achieved the financial security many believed her talent deserved. On June 30, 1995, Phyllis Hyman died at the age of 45. Her death shocked fans and fellow musicians, many of whom were unaware of the depth of her personal struggles. In the years since, her reputation has only grown, with many recognizing her as one of the most underrated vocalists in soul music history. Though financial success sometimes eluded her, Phyllis Hyman left behind something far more enduring: a catalog of deeply moving music that continues to touch listeners around the world and secure her place among the great voices of her generation. Jimmy Ruffin. Jimmy Ruffin's journey through the music industry is a story of talent, perseverance, and bittersweet success. Born in Collinsville, Mississippi in 1936, he grew up in a musical family that would eventually produce two legendary soul singers. While his younger brother David Ruffin became famous as the lead vocalist of The Temptations, Jimmy carved out an impressive career of his own, earning recognition as one of Motown's most soulful and emotionally expressive performers. Ruffin spent years working to establish himself before achieving mainstream success. His breakthrough came in 1966 with What Becomes of the Broken Hearted, a powerful ballad that became an international hit and remains one of the most beloved soul recordings ever made. The song resonated deeply with listeners because of Ruffin's heartfelt delivery and emotional authenticity. It sold millions of copies and transformed him into a global star almost overnight. Throughout the late 1960s and 1970s, Ruffin continued recording and touring, enjoying success in both the United States and Europe. However, despite his popularity, he never consistently reached the commercial heights achieved by some of Motown's biggest acts. Like many artists of his era, he faced challenges involving royalties, changing musical trends, and the financial realities of the entertainment industry. While audiences remembered his voice, financial security often proved more difficult to maintain than fame itself. During the later years of his life, Ruffin continued performing and remained respected within the music community. Although he enjoyed periods of success, he never accumulated the kind of fortune many people associate with legendary recording artists. When he passed away on November 17, 2014, at the age of 78, he left behind a legacy built on music rather than wealth. Today, Jimmy Ruffin is remembered as the voice behind one of soul music's most enduring songs. His career serves as a reminder that artistic greatness and financial prosperity do not always go hand in hand. Yet decades after his biggest hit, his music continues to touch hearts around the world, ensuring that his legacy remains alive. Prince. Prince was one of the most gifted and innovative artists in modern music history. Born Prince Rogers Nelson in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1958, he transformed popular music through extraordinary talent, relentless creativity, and complete artistic independence. A singer, songwriter, producer, multi-instrumentalist, and performer, Prince built a career that produced iconic albums such as Purple Rain 1999, Sign of the Times, and Diamonds and Pearls. Over his lifetime, he sold more than 100 million records worldwide and became one of the most influential musicians of all time. Unlike many artists who relied heavily on producers and collaborators, Prince often wrote, arranged, produced, and performed nearly every aspect of his music himself. His work ethic became legendary. He recorded thousands of songs, many of which remained unreleased in the famous vault at his Paisley Park complex. His concerts routinely sold out, and his influence could be heard across pop, rock, R&B, funk, and hip-hop. However, Prince's relationship with money was far more complicated than many fans realized. Throughout his career, he spent heavily on recording projects, business ventures, employee salaries, charitable donations, and maintaining his extensive creative empire. He was also known for fiercely battling record companies over ownership rights and artist compensation. These battles often cost significant amounts of money, but reflected his commitment to artistic freedom. It is important to note that Prince did not die broke. When he passed away on April 21, 2016, at the age of 57, his estate was ultimately valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. However, because he died without a will, years of legal disputes followed as family members and administrators fought over control of his assets. Those complicated estate battles created public confusion about his finances. Today, Prince remains a symbol of creativity, independence, and musical excellence. While his name is sometimes mistakenly included in discussions about celebrities who died broke, the evidence shows that he left behind substantial wealth. His true legacy lies not in financial controversies, but in a catalog of music that continues to inspire artists and audiences around the world. The stories you've heard today remind us that fame and fortune are not always the same thing. Some of these legends changed music forever, sold millions of records, and inspired generations, yet many faced financial struggles, exploitation, poor business deals, or personal hardships behind the scenes. Their talent made them unforgettable, but their journeys also reveal the hidden challenges that often come with success. Now we'd like to hear from you. Which legend's story shocked you the most, and do you believe the entertainment industry has done enough to protect artists from financial hardship? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful stories from Remembered Lives channel.